Pickering, and I'm the founder of Summerhall Distillery in Edinburgh. We started the distillery 10 years ago, predominantly making gin, and then we moved into vodka, and now whiskey. So we do, a large part of what we do is whiskey, but much bigger bulk whiskey. But we've been doing Four Queens gin since 2017. No, we haven't. We've been doing Three Queens gin since 2017, and we are literally launching on the 3rd Four Queens gin. So 3rd of May, this is when the press and everybody else will hear about Four Queens gin. So how many of you are from other Cunard ships? Just 2, 3? Okay. Okay. So we've got a few new people, so I'll explain a bit about what we do. But first of all, I'll explain a little bit about the distillery. So Summerhall Distillery is based in Edinburgh. Like I say, we're 10 years old. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a video about the distilling process. There's no sound, so I'll talk over it. But basically, you've all been on the sake training, right? So sake and gin, every spirit starts the same way. You need yeast and you need a something, whether it's polished rice for sake, or whether it's grain or barley or sugar cane. You need something with the yeast to react with it to then start making the alcohol. So what you've learnt in sake training is very much the beginnings of gin. So what we do is we make a beer the same way as you make sake, very similar. We don't press it, but the alcohol is made the same way. Then we create this beer, very strong, about 14%, and it doesn't taste of anything. And then we take that beer and we put it into a still, and we start distilling. And there's 3 distillations to bring, and we redistill each time. So every new distillation brings a new strength of liquid coming through. So we start the first distillation about 25%, then we get up to more like 55, 60, 70% alcohol, and the last one is 90. We want to get up to 98.5% alcohol, so nearly 100% alcohol. That's called grain neutral spirit. We take that grain neutral spirit, we add water, botanicals, we let them sit, and we start producing the gin. So we'll see this video. So we also make Pickering's gin, obviously. This video is about Pickering's gin, but it's all the same process as Cunard. Fingers crossed, there we go. So there's obviously nice music that goes with this bit. But, so this is just showing, it's actually the back of the distillery, but the guys very early morning going into the distillery about 6:30 in the morning. And the guy talking over it at the moment is just talking about the guys and who they are and what they do. You don't need to know these guys. Okay, so this is showing we built the whole distillery ourselves. That's me, top middle, 10 years ago. Tiling, building the distillery, designing the still, and fitting the whole place out. And it's all based on this. This is a recipe from the 17th of July, 1947. It's written down in a place called Mount Mary, which is in Bombay. So it's a Bombay recipe. And my father gave me this recipe in 2012. So we kind of built a distillery around it. These are our botanicals that go into Pickering's gin. You'll see the botanicals that go into Four Queens in a minute. And we now use Angelica. Angelica binds our gin together, binds all the botanicals together. Then we have a certain mix that this guy won't tell you what the ingredients are, but once we've got all the ingredients, he won't tell you the levels or the mix that we put in to make it. These are our 2 stills, Emily and Gertrude. Put the botanicals in with water and with alcohol. And then we heat them, and we heat them slowly. And as we heat them slowly, the water separates from the alcohol and goes up here as a gas, and the gas of alcohol goes up and into the condenser, and that turns it back from a gas into a liquid again. and it comes out as gin. So you've got all the essences and the flavours that go into botanicals are coming through, and you have heads, hearts and tails. Take the beginning away with methanol in it, and then we keep the hearts, the main part of the gin. So that's the really important bit. So you have heads, hearts and tails. The heads you redistill later, the tails you redistill later, and the head and the heart you keep. We now measure it with a hydrometer and a thermometer, and by doing that we can adjust, we can see what alcohol levels we have. So 42%. Cunards are all different alcohol strengths depending on the flavour. Very boring book that explains all about the measurements between the temperature of the alcohol and the density of the alcohol, which then gives us our proof, our volume. We bottle everything ourselves by hand. This is the old Three Queens gin bottle actually, but with a Pickering label on it. But that's what we used to use, and I'll explain why we don't use that bottle anymore in a minute. And then we used to wax dip all the bottles for Cunard, and Cunard, all the team, bar staff, hated the old bottles because the wax was really difficult to take off. So what everybody used to do, and I don't blame anyone for doing it, but what everybody used to do is get a knife and slice all the wax off. Yeah. So instead of going around, they just took it all off, which is okay, but it doesn't make the bottle. The bottle's not very pretty if you do that, right? So all of these now have this tear top. And the idea is that you peel it that way so that we keep the red at the bottom, so it just keeps the bottle looking nice, right? So we don't like to remove all of this once we've opened the bottle. So the reason why we make Cunard, gin or gin Cunard, is that when I was growing up, my mother used to talk about this guy. So this guy is my great uncle. When my father died, my grandfather died in the war, my great uncle looked after my mum, and he was the original, in 1936, one of the first captains of Queen Mary, the original Queen Mary. The original Queen Mary is now in Long Beach, California. I've been to visit her. It's an amazing ship, very different from the Cunard ships nowadays, and that's me trying to look like him. So that's how so from a very young age, I always heard about Cunard. I knew about Cunard. My mum talked about it, my grandmother talked about it. My grandmother used to go regularly to New York with my great uncle, although my grandmother never stepped foot in America. She just used to get off the ship, have a look, and get back on the ship and sail home. She never once stepped foot in American soil. So the other thing about all Cunard gins is 10% of every bottle that we sell goes to the Prince's Trust, which is Cunard's chosen charity. And now we're on to the tastings. So each, here we go, there you are. Actually, that one's got a bit left in it, so that one. Thank you. So each Cunard gin is a different expression, and each expression is built on where the ship spends most of its time. Okay, so this one obviously is the Queen Mary, so it's a hint of the Americas. So it's transatlantic. It's pretty much all it does most of the time, apart from the World Cruise. So what we have done here is have American flavors in there. There's apple, there's cinnamon, there's cherry, there's coriander, and there's raspberry leaf are the additional flavors. There's always going to be juniper in every gin we make because it's gin. All of the gins are London dry gins, so that's very important. So the definition of a London dry gin is nothing to do with London. It's just to do with where the gin, how you make the gin. So Hendrick's, we all know Hendrick's. Hendrick's isn't a London dry gin. And the reason for that is that they add cucumber essence and rosewater essence after distillation. So if you add anything after distillation, it's no longer a London dry gin. So there's 4 things to make it a London dry gin. It has to be 37.5% alcohol or more. It has to be distilled in a copper pot still, a big copper still like you saw earlier. It has to be heavy in juniper by weight, more than anything else. There has to be more juniper in it. And number 4 is you cannot add any other flavours afterwards. So that's what makes it London dry. So this one is a so this one, like I say, this is the strongest of the 4. This is 44.1. 44.1% alcohol. So it's going to be a bit, it's going to be quite strong initially, but if you just take a tiny little bit to start with, get your mouth used to the spirit, and then when you taste it after that, you'll actually get to taste.
A very good afternoon, everyone. This is Captain speaking from the bridge. Just with a quick announcement. Today at 1500 hours, our IT department is working on shifting some server rooms. This will or might affect all phones in crew areas, cabin areas, and also the CCTV. So some of these might be off for up to about a minute, and that's all the effect it has. So at 3 o'clock they start this afternoon. They'll also do some testing tomorrow, but I'll come back tomorrow and let you know what it will affect. So for today, the CCTV and the phones in crew areas, crew cabins, will be affected for up to about a minute. So if you have experienced any issues, try to find an alternative way of raising any alarms that you need to raise for the duration of that minute. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, so the flavour in this gin, obviously, you'll get a mouthfeel after you've sort of swallowed it, and a flavour in your mouth, and the cherry comes through quite heavily at the end there. All 4 Queen's gins are not supposed to be flavoured gins. So they're not gins like flavoured vodka, like a toffee vodka or something, where you just taste it and all you can taste is toffee. These are just supposed to have a hint. So it's just a hint of these other flavours. So they're naturally a London dry gin that makes a great gin and tonic, or the perfect serve that you'll be serving in the bars. But the influence is taken, or that if you imagine that every botanical that we make, or every botanical that we put into the gin, makes a perfect circle, like spokes on a tyre, on a wheel, then there's just a spike of a few of the flavours, just to give it that little extra push in one direction. So yeah, so this is a taste of the Americas. All of these gins are sold on board. So it's very important, the only people that can sell this gin on board is you guys. So you are the Cunard sales team for these gins. We do not sell it in the duty free. Hardings don't sell it. And it is available on the Summerhall Distillery website, and that's it. So most people will want to buy a bottle on board, and they can buy it from the bar. On your tablets that you normally have, that one of those, yeah. On those tablets, it's under gifting. So you'll find the bottle price at $42 plus the commission is under gifting. And these guys as well, which are 26, I think. Used to be 20 for 3, might be 23 now or 26. Can't quite remember, but it's under gifting anyway. So I'm sorry, I should have turned that off. This guy's selling me a car. I'll ring him back later. Yeah, so it should come under gifting, but they should be able to buy it from the bars, and there'll also be some display tables And as time goes on, we're going to improve those display tables. So they'll be a bit makeshift to start with, but as the what do you call it, land team? Shoreside. As Shoreside get more organised, we'll start developing the tables that will display all Cunard products that are for sale, including Three Queens and these miniatures. So yeah, so it's really important that the customers or the passengers realise, no, the guests realise that it is available to buy, and it's available to buy from the bars. All 12 bars should be able to sell it, I believe. There's also an incentive every quarter, which Shoreside again are working on at the moment, but it's going to be something along the lines of whoever sells the most bottles of gin gets $100 US gift voucher that they can use in stores for shopping anywhere in the world, basically. So wherever you get some shore time, you get to take your voucher. Yeah.
£21.74
£21.74.
plus grants, and then it's total 25.
25 in total. Okay. So 25 including the ship's percentage. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So there we are, 25. So yeah, so it's probably it's a good deal compared to the Three Queens, really. Right, so if everyone's got their palette sorted out, then we can move on to the next one, which is the Queen Victoria edition. Need a bit more. Oh, sorry. I'll open the next one for you. So this is what I was trying to show you earlier, but these are these didn't arrive in time, so all the bottles got to the ship before these got to the ship. So I've had to use the kitchen here to put the heat shrinks on, so they've got a bit tight on the bottles. But that's how it should look when you're serving it in the bars. So it's got Cunard around here, it's got the crest on the top, it's got the crest on the bottom, but when it sits behind the bar, it's important to keep the lower part of the neck in place just to make the bottle still look nice. There you go. Thank you.
Ida make it full, ah. Ida make it full. Ida make it full. They're here.
You have to more glasses when you out.
So this is Queen Victoria edition. It has, I guess the flavours are, it's very much, because it's the Mediterranean, so it's all about Mediterranean flavours, so there's lots of citrus in there. It's not too citrusy, but there is definitely a good flavour of the blood orange in it. That's the flavour that sticks out the most for me, is the blood orange. And I think the lemon myrtle comes out, but it's very clean, very citrusy. And this is the most popular of the Three Queens. It's the best seller, Three Queens Smooth. But I cannot wait for you to try Queen Anne, because Queen Anne is, I'm not just saying it because I'm on the Queen Anne. Queen Anne gin is magnificent and has a good story. So we call them cheat sheets, but these sheets are obviously for you to keep. But these are the kind of things that we've known from experience that the guests will ask me. So things like, are they all different? What's the difference between them? So you'll be able to say, well, the difference between each one is where the ships go. So you know, transatlantic has Taste of the Americas. If you can just try and think, Americas, Mediterranean, Orient, and
British
British
Isles.
Isles. Make sure people and British Isles. So they're the sort of influences from each one, and then you'll know the flavour profiles that each one has. So what do we think of this one? Do we like this one? Yeah. Good.
Fruity and citrus. Tonic na lang, Lips.
Oh.
Tapsi.
Everybody should have 5. Ah, yeah, thank you. I just need some water. That'd be great, thank you.
Sorry, I can take
So okay, thanks. Yeah, so Queen Victoria, like I say, is the most popular out of the 3. But I think Queen Anne's probably going to catch up quite quickly. What else we have? Yeah, so the distillery, when you come to, I think it's your second cruise for this ship, we'll be going around the top, and you're coming to Edinburgh. So when you come to Edinburgh, you all have an invite from me to come to the distillery. We're about 20 minutes Uber. And Chris says he'll happily pay for the Uber. So to come and visit me in the distillery, and I can show you everything that we've discussed and show you the stills properly. So you get a free tour, gin and tonic when you come and see us, and we'll show you around the whole distillery. So make sure if you get shore leave and you get the opportunity when you're in Edinburgh, come and see us. And Chris said he's going to pay for you. Yeah. Yeah, so he wants to make sure that the crew of bar staff get the opportunity to go. You know, if you're in South Africa and you're right next to a winery, go see it. Go to see where some of the great wines are made from. Okay. So Queen Elizabeth edition now. It's called Taste of the Orient. And really that, the gin it's the spiciest out of the 4. And when I say spicy, it's not spicy like Chilean things, but there is definitely a less sweetness in it, more of a spice through it. And everyone picks out different things. So we talk about the star anise. For me, the next one really has the, and there's a tiny bit in there. For me, it's the cardamom that really, the flavour of the cardamom really comes through on this green. Customers may also, or guests may also ask, where is it available? Like I said, it's only available at the moment on the ship and on our website. However, we are speaking to Fortnum & Masons in London, which is a small chain of quite exclusive stores in London, and we're also looking to get it to America. So you obviously have quite a lot of American guests, so we are working hard to get it imported to the United States, but that takes quite a long time with COLA and TTB approval and various American government things, but it is coming to the States.
Plastic.
Is it double?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's got 2.
Okay.
What is the alcohol in all the drinks?
What's the alcohol of each one? So they chop and change. Queen Mary is 44.1. That's the strongest one. Queen Victoria is 42.2. I should have put that on the cheat sheet, right? Queen Anne is 41.8. And Elizabeth is 43.4. And the reason why they're all different in strength is because as the distillers made it, and once we taste this one, we'll go into a bit of detail of how we came up with the flavours, but as the distillers made it, it's called a cut, right? So it's where you decide on the level of alcohol, where you cut it with water. And each one was really precision done so that if it's tasted neat, that should be its optimum flavour. Then if you put it on ice, obviously it's going to change the flavour, and the water will help bring out the flavour. But the starting point is the percentages that the alcohol is sitting at the moment. So you can smell the spice on this one a bit more. Some people love this one, some people less so. I actually really like it. I like, it's also got yeah, it's the fennel. I think it's the fennel I like, and the caffeine I like. Yeah, yeah. So that's the anise and the fennel sort of working together to give you that licoricey taste. But it works great in some cocktails. It works really good in a martini. Very good in a martini. So, especially like with an olive in it. Works very well with that. They all work well with martinis. I love this one with a twist of orange and even orange bitters. Just a touch of orange bitters in the martini with that one is fantastic. But as you can tell now, there's three so far, three very different flavors. So the base is always the same, but it's these extra things that we add that really give the flavor, make a difference with all the flavors.
How many liters comes out of one batch?
Good question. 600.
600 liters.
Well, sorry, 500 litres, about 600 bottles. Yeah, 500 litres. So each one of those stills you saw there.
The botanicals that you put in, how much is that?
So it's about each one changed roughly 2.5 kilos of mixed botanicals. Juniper being the most by weight. So yeah, about 2.5 kilos of botanicals go in. The charge of the still is 500 litres, and then we should get 600 bottles out of that 500 litres, there or thereabouts, depending on the percentage, obviously.
So how many bottles a year?
Depends how many you order. Depends how many you sell. But over the whole range, it's about 150 to 200,000 bottles a year, something like that. So just from those two small stills. So you can do a type of distilling which I'm using Hendrick's again as an example. It's only because I know Hendrick's quite well. So what they'll do is they'll make a distillate. So very, very strong. So they'll put 4 times as many botanicals in, and they'll make a very, very strong batch that would make 600 bottles, but then they dilute it with spirit and water. So the distillate's very strong, and so it's like a cordial, right? So it's just like, so out of one batch of 500 litres, you could probably make up to 23,000 bottles, depending on how strong you make that first batch. We try not to do that. We do it with a couple of products. We don't do it with Cunard. So each one of these is a single batch, and each bottle will be batch numbered. These aren't, because these are samples, or they're training samples. But when the bottles are loaded on the 30th, there's bottle numbers on them. Quite hard to see, but we've already got quite a lot of people asking for batch 1, because they've got batch 1 of 3 queens, and now they want batch 1 of 4 queens. So. Yes.
We used to have the gin released with the bars. We used to put the bottles or the filling bags sometimes.
Yeah.
Once, we don't have enough supply or
Yeah.
he was asking if they're keeping the bottles active.
Yeah, I
I'm
would.
not sure if they...
Yeah, I mean, you can refill them from drum stock. So you have drum stock in the gin and fizz bar for the gin tap.
Here we don't have.
And
You do not have any gin.
oh, there's no
There's
gin and fizz bar on here. But no, it's a very good point. On this shit, no, you probably won't. There's no opportunity at the moment to refill them because we don't have any drum stock on here. We could arrange to get drum stock, but we are working on a thing with Cunard next phase, which is called the 7 Steps to Sustainability, which is all the house pours will be refilled. So whiskey, gin, rum, vodka, they will all be, you'll be able to refill from drum, which would be huge saving on glass. So I'm working on that with Edward, but he's got a lot of things going on. So small steps, but we're trying to get to the sustainability thing as well. But yeah, I think it would be great to refill these with drum stock. It's a good idea because they're quite.
Nice looking well. You destroy them.
I know.
You see the crisp at the bottom, top.
Looks
Yeah.
like Tanqueray chain bottle.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Almost. Inspired.
Yeah, so it's supposed to look like a decanter at the bottom here. That's supposed to have a real decanter feel to it. But the other thing that's good about these bottles is the original bottles for Cunard were very, very heavy. Lots and lots of glass in them, to the point that apparently the glass crusher couldn't cope with the bottles in the bottle. So the previous bottles weighed about a kilo, just for the empty glass. These are just under 600 grams, so they're much, much lighter, much less glass. So even though they look more premium, they're you can feel the weight of them is much lighter in comparison to the old bottles.
This is
So
700 ml or?
700s, yeah. 700. Yeah, same amount of gin in each one. Okay. Let's move on to Queen Anne. So, thank you. Ah, it's the same again, is it? God.
I-gym mo kayo. Anong oras? Gym tayo. Gym tayo. 11.
Okay, that will do for now.
Patapa. Ito konti lang to. 41 na.
So I just want to talk to you briefly about the way that in 2017, we started making the gins.
Sign ito.
So we came up with the idea, we came up with the concept. Cunard had agreed to stock the gins and to work with us to make the gins. But like I said, they wanted to work with us. So what a lot of brands will do, not for Cunard but for other companies, when people say we want our own whiskey, we want our own gin, they just put a different label on it, and that's it. We decided very early on that we didn't want to do that with Cunard, and Cunard didn't want to do that with us. They wanted their own unique gins, and they wanted to be part of the whole process. So the food and beverages team, or members of the food and beverages team, came up to the distillery in Scotland, and they started. We spent 2 or 3 days with lots of flavours. So the way that you do it is we distill 150, maybe 200 botanicals we have distilled all separately. So just juniper, just cardamom, just star anise, etc., etc., etc. 200 flavours. We lay them all out in a big room, and then people get droppers and a little glass about that size, and they just start putting their favourite flavours in and tasting. And then we just built and built and built on that. And once we had some real flavours that people like, then we start adjusting the levels of them to get the flavour just how they wanted it. So this was definitely developed, or the 3 Queens were definitely developed by the Cunard team and our head distillers together. And then it was the same people 6 years later that came up to help develop the Queen Anne gin. So same group of people, same people developing it, but I think you'll find this one is, in my opinion, is very, very smooth. Now the influence on this one is very much the rose. You can really taste the rose in it, which is very important and was supposed to be the main flavour in it. And the reason for that is that there is a variety of rose bush that was invented for Queen Anne when she was alive, and it's called the Queen Anne rose. And the Queen Anne rose still grows around places like Buckingham Palace and Kew Gardens and Chelsea and places like that in London, and it's a well-known, Queen Anne is a well-known rose bush. But when Cunard said, well, we want to put it in our gin, it's not that easy. You can't just go into Asda and say, I'd like a bag of Queen Anne rose petals, please. It's not easy to get. So what we had to do is, in May last year, we bought 4 Queen Anne rose bushes, and we planted them in the head distiller's garden. And in midsummer, I think it was about August, he plucked all the roses, we dried them, and then we put them into Queen Anne gin. So the rose petals that are in this gin have been grown in the head distiller's garden. And that is the way now that we keep that constant flow of rose petals coming in. So each summer, as long as they flower, we're okay. We've got rose petals. So there's always lots of different things, but I think that's a very good story for the guests. It's absolutely true. I don't know how happy he is about 4 rose bushes in his garden, but he's happy to go and pick them. But that's the way we did it.
It would be the best story if you said you stole them from Buckingham Palace.
Stolen from Buckingham Palace, yeah. So what do you think of this? It's different, right? So it's again very different from the others. Very smooth. I think it might move into the winning spot. I think with just a big chunk of ice in there, it'd be fantastic.
Super.
So that's our 4 queens. There are some other products on board. They have been in cocktails. I don't know if they're in the most recent cocktail list, but they are here, so I'll just run over them with you. This is our Pickering's Navy Strength Gin. Some of you may have seen it before. It's used in a lot of the or used to be used in a few of the cocktails. It makes it, again, a great martini. Makes a great martini because you can just keep on stirring because it's got so much alcohol in it. I don't have any of that for you to taste, unfortunately. But it's a very traditional tasting London dry gin. There's nothing more to it really than that. And then the other 2 products that are on board are our slow gin. We've got 2 types of slow gin. So about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided that we needed to produce more sloe gin. And the method that we were using for producing sloe gin was taking too long. So we changed the method. Claudia decided she didn't like the new sloe gin, so she wanted the old sloe gin. So now we make 2 sloe gins, one for Cunard and one for the rest of the world. So Cunard has their own variety of sloe gin. And sloe gin is made with sloe berries that you pick from the hedgerows in the UK, and then you freeze them, and they crack, and then you add them to gin. So a huge amount, like 20 kilos of sloe berries into a big drum, fill it full of gin, sugar, and then you roll it every day. Once a day, you roll it for 6 months. And the end result is sloe gin. And it doesn't taste like any gin that we've had here, it's more of a liqueur. So it's very good to put in with champagne or Prosecco, something like that. And it's in some of the cocktails for Cunard. And then the Pickering's Oak Aged Gin is in some of our old whiskey casks. So when we bottle whiskey, we keep the empty casks, and some of them we used to, in 2016, we used to fill with gin. So it was an oak-aged, sort of almost a whiskey-influenced gin that was popular. Cunard took on our Islay oak-aged gin, and we've discontinued all of our oak-aged gins now for the rest of the world, apart from the fact we still make 1 barrel a year for Cunard. So the only place you can get that product is on the ships as well. Just because we discontinued it everywhere else, but Claudia wanted to keep it, so we've kept it on. So do we have any questions?
You said earlier you moved on to whiskey and vodka. Where are those distilleries? Anywhere as well?
Yeah, so our distillery, as you saw, was very, very small. So if we used the brewery which is next to us and made our own whiskey, each batch would be about 50 litres, not even, way too small. So we source whiskey. So we've been buying casks of whiskey since 2014 we bought our first whiskey casks. So we've got some 10-year-old whiskies, and we buy and source a lot of whiskies for a lot of people. So we do about 15, 16 different whiskies. We do a lot of bulk whiskey.
All locally sourced or?
All Scottish. Although we do import some Australian and New Zealand whiskey as well. And there is some Japanese whiskey coming soon. Japanese whiskey is just changing its whole profile now, because you can no longer take Scotch, put it in Japan, play around with it for a bit, and then send it back as Japanese whiskey, which is what has been happening for a long time. So now there's a difference between Japanese-made whiskey and Japanese labeled whiskey. There's now a definition between the two. But yeah, so we're doing. If you do get to come and visit, we can also taste you on some of our whiskies as well. But we do a lot of whiskies for a bit like this, white label whiskey for people. And we also do casks. So we will buy a tanker of new make whiskey from a distillery. We'll buy 350 casks from a cooperage, and we'll fill the casks and we'll sell the casks with new make in it. So we do a lot of that as well. So it's good because we can say, well, what do you want? Do you want a lowlands, a highlands, a borders, island? You know, it could be all sorts of things that people want. We just have the whole variety. And I think because we don't make whiskey, people are very pleased to sell it to us. Whereas if you're making whiskey and you want to buy someone else's whiskey, they're like, but if you say, well, we don't make any whiskey, we just want to buy it from everyone, then it's really easy for us to purchase. So we've got some great suppliers. In fact, today we have a tanker, 30,000 litres of whiskey arriving today to go into casks that's going off to customers. So I should have put the photographs of the whiskies on here, of the warehouse. We've got about, I think, what have we got? 550,000 litres of whiskey in our warehouse. It's just casks everywhere. We got rid of them. Yeah, it's a big guy, but it's all about the gin at the moment. But we are working on some really cool whiskies for Cunard. To get off the regular hotel list that we've got on Cunard, it'd be good to bring some really special stuff, because Cunard's a very different company than a lot of the tour. Exactly. Yeah. You can get a 16-year-old Glenfiddich anywhere, but you can't get a 10-year-old Wolfburn distilled by two guys up in the Highlands. And that's sort of quite cool. There's certainly a lot of tourists will go, and it's very good. Okay. Anything else? Any questions, anyone? All good. So do take the cheat sheets away with you.
Yeah.
They're worth keeping and having a think about, and just remembering that you are the sales team, and don't forget the incentive that will be there every quarter for whoever sells the most amount of gin. Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Don't mind taking your glasses out, and then we can